Arches National Park is a U.S. national park in eastern Utah. The park is located on the Colorado River 4 miles north of Moab, Utah. It is known for containing over 2,000 natural sandstone arches, including the world-famous Delicate Arch, in addition to a variety of unique geological resources and formations. The park is located just outside of Moab, Utah, and is 76,359 acres in area. Its highest elevation is 5,653 feet at Elephant Butte, and its lowest elevation is 4,085 feet at the Visitor Center. 43 arches are known to have collapsed since 1977. The park receives 10 inches of rain a year on average. Administered by the National Park Service, the area was originally named a national monument on April 12, 1929. It was redesignated as a national park on November 12, 1971. Geology. The national park lies atop an underground evaporite layer or salt bed, which is the main cause of the formation of the arches, spires, balanced rocks, sandstone fins, and eroded monoliths in the area. This salt bed is thousands of feet thick in places, and was deposited in the Paradox Basin of the Colorado Plateau some 300 million years ago when a sea flowed into the region and eventually evaporated. Over millions of years, the salt bed was covered with debris eroded from the Uncompahgre uplift to the northeast. During the early Jurassic desert conditions prevailed in the region and the vast Navajo sandstone was deposited. An additional sequence of stream-laid and wind-blown sediments, the Entrada sandstone, was deposited on top of the Navajo. Over 5,000 feet of younger sediments were deposited and have been mostly eroded away. Remnants of the cover exist in the area including exposures of the Cretaceous Mancos Shale. The arches of the area are developed mostly within the Entrada Formation. The weight of this cover caused the salt bed below it to liquefy and thrust up layers of rock into salt domes. The evaporites of the area formed more unusual salt anticlines or linear regions of uplift. Faulting occurred and whole sections of rock subsided into the areas between the domes. In some places, they turned almost on edge. The result of one such 2,500-foot displacement, the Moab Fault, is seen from the Visitor Center. As this subsurface movement of salt shaped the landscape, erosion removed the younger rock layers from the surface. Except for isolated remnants, the major formations visible in the park today are the salmon-colored Entrada sandstone, in which most of the arches form, and the buff-colored Navajo sandstone. These are visible in layer cake fashion throughout most of the park. Over time, water seeped into the surface cracks, joints, and folds of these layers. Ice formed in the fissures, expanding and putting pressure on surrounding rock, breaking off bits and pieces. Wind later cleaned out the loose particles. A series of freestanding fins remained. Wind and water attacked these fins until, in some, the cementing material gave way and chunks of rock tumbled out. Many damaged fins collapsed. Others, with the right degree of hardness and balance, survived despite their missing sections. These became the famous arches. Although the park's terrain appears rugged and durable, it is the exact opposite. More than 700,000 visitors each year threaten the fragile high desert ecosystem. The problem lies within the soil's crust, which is composed of cyanobacteria, algae, fungi, and lichens that grow in the dusty parts of the park. Factors that make Arches National Park sensitive to visitor impact include semi-arid region, and the scarce, unpredictable rainfall, lack of deep freezing, and lack of plant litter, which results in soils that have both a low resistance to, and slow recovery from, compressional forces such as foot traffic. Methods of indicating impacts on the soil are cytophobic soil crust index, measuring of water infiltration, and t-tests that are used to compare the values from the undisturbed and disturbed areas. Climate. History. Humans have occupied the region since the last ice age 10,000 years ago. Fman people and ancient Pueblo people lived in the area up until about 700 years ago. Spanish missionaries encountered Ute and Paiute tribes in the area when they first came through in 1775, but the first European Americans to attempt settlement in the area were the Mormon Elk Mountain Mission in 1855, who soon abandoned the area. Ranchers, farmers, and prospectors later settled Moab in the neighboring Riverine Valley in the 1880s. Word of the beauty of the surrounding rock formations spread beyond the settlement as a possible tourist destination. The Arches area was first brought to the attention of the National Park Service by Frank A. Wadley, passenger traffic manager of the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad. Wadley, accompanied by railroad photographer George L. Beam, visited the area in September 1923 at the invitation of Alexander Ringerfer, a Hungarian-born prospector living in Salt Valley. Ringerfer had written to the railroad in an effort to interest them in the tourist potential of a scenic area he had discovered the previous year with his 2 sons and a son-in-law, which he called the Devil's Garden. Wadley was impressed by what Ringerfer showed him, and suggested to Park Service Director Stephen T. Mather that the area be made a national monument. The following year, additional support for the monument idea came from Lawrence Gould, a University of Michigan graduate student studying the geology of the nearby La Salle Mountains, who was shown the scenic area by local physician Dr. J.W. Doc Williams. A succession of government investigators examined the area, in part due to confusion as to the precise location. In the process, the name Devil's Garden was transposed to an area on the opposite side of Salt Valley, and Ringerfer's original discovery was omitted, while another area nearby, known locally as the Windows, was included. Designation of the area as a national monument was supported by the Park Service from 1926, but was resisted by President Calvin Coolidge's Interior Secretary, Hubert Work. Finally, in April 1929, shortly after his inauguration, President Herbert Hoover signed a presidential proclamation creating Arches National Monument, consisting of 2 comparatively small, disconnected sections. The purpose of the reservation under the 1906 Antiquities Act was to protect the arches, spires, balanced rocks, and other sandstone formations for their scientific and educational value. The name Arches was suggested by Frank Pinkley, superintendent of the Park Service's Southwestern National Monuments, following a visit to the Windows section in 1925. In late 1938, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed a proclamation which enlarged Arches to protect additional scenic features and permit development of facilities to promote tourism. A small adjustment was made by President Dwight Eisenhower in 1960 to accommodate a new road alignment. In early 1969, just before leaving office, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed a proclamation substantially enlarging Arches. 2 years later, President Richard Nixon signed legislation enacted by Congress which significantly reduced the total area enclosed, but changed its status to a national park. Recreational activities, climbing on named arches within the park has long been banned by park regulations. Following Dean Potter's successful free climb on the delicate arch in May 2006, however, the wording of the regulations was deemed unenforceable by the park attorney. The park revised its regulations as follows in response. All rock climbing or similar activities on any arch or natural bridge named on the United States Geological Survey 7.5-minute topographical maps covering Arches National Park are prohibited. Climbing on other features in the park is allowed, but regulated. The revised regulations also prohibit slacklining park-wide. Approved recreational activities include auto touring, backpacking, biking, camping, and hiking, some of which require permits. Guided commercial tours and ranger programs are also available. Astronomy is also popular in the park due to its dark skies despite the increasing light pollution from towns like Moab. Publicity. American writer Edward Abbey was a park ranger at Arches National Monument where he kept journals that became his book Desert Solitaire. The success of this book, as well as the rise in adventure-based recreation, has drawn many hikers, mountain bikers, and off-road enthusiasts to the area, but activities are limited within park boundaries, camping, foot hiking, and driving only along marked roads. An 825-mile backpacking route, the Hayduke Trail named after one of Edward Abbey's characters begins in the park. Arches National Park was used as one of the filming locations for the 1965 biblical film, The Greatest Story Ever Told. Portions of the Windows section of Arches National Park were used as locations in the 1989 film Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Arches National Park is the subject of the third 2014 Quarter scheduled as part of the U.S. Mint's America the Beautiful Quarters coin program commemorating national parks and historic sites. Plants and animals. There is an abundance of wildlife in Arches. The list includes spadefoot toad, antelope squirrel, scrub jay, peregrine falcon, many kinds of sparrows, red fox, desert bighorn sheep, kangaroo rat, mule deer, mountain lion, midget-faded rattlesnake, yucca moth, many types of cyanobacteria, western rattlesnake, and the western collared lizard. Plants also dominate the landscape in the park. The list of plants includes prickly pear cactus, Indian ricegrass, bunch grasses, chatgrass, lichen, moss, liverworts, Utah juniper, Mormon tea, blackbrush, clefrose, four-winged saltbrush, pinyon pine, stemless woollybass, evening primrose, sand verbena, yucca, and sacred datura. Features. Among the notable features of the park are, balanced rock a large balancing rock, the size of 3 school buses, courthouse towers a collection of tall stone columns, Dark Angel a freestanding 150-foot tall sandstone pillar at the end of the Devil's Garden Trail, Delicate Arch a lone standing arch which has become a symbol of Utah and the most recognized arch in the park, Devil's Garden or the Klondike Bluffs a with many arches and columns scattered along a ridge, Double Arch a 2 arches that share a common end, Fiery Furnace a an area of maze-like narrow passages and tall rock columns, Landscape Arch a very thin and long arch with a span of 290 feet, Petrified Dunes a petrified remnants of sand dunes blown from the ancient lakes that covered the area, Wall Arch a located along the popular Devil's Garden Trail. Collapsed sometime on August 4/5, 2008. See also: Natural Bridges National Monument featuring water-eroded bridges instead of wind-eroded arches, Rainbow Bridge National Monument, National Register of Historic Places listings in Arches National Park. References. Further reading: Geologic Road and Trail Guides to Arches National Park, 2000, Utah Geological Association. External links: Official website, Utah Office of Tourism page on Arches National Park, Historic American Engineering record NOAA UT-70, Arches National Park Main Entrance Road, beginning at U.S. Highway 191, approximately 6 miles north of Moab, Grant County, UT. 7 are photos, 3 are color transparencies, 23 are data pages, 2 are photo caption pages. NOAA UT-70 Arches National Park Main Entrance Road, Moab Canyon Wash Culvert, spanning Moab Canyon Wash at main entrance. Road, Moab, Grant County, UT. 3 are photos, 6 are data pages, 1 a photo caption page.